And we are at another Owls rewatch party here. And now we are celebrating the 1992 men's basketball victory over Texas, and a special crew starting with head coach of that year's team, Scott Thompson. Coach, how are you?
Good to be here, JP. Thank you for doing this and getting this group together.
Yeah, really excited about this. And as order as I see it, kind of clockwise on my screen, we have a young guy on that year's team, New Orleans native, Tori Andrews. Tori, where's the world find you now?
So still here in Houston, working for Waste Management. I tend to go to about 1 or 2 games a year because I have 2 kids and they're very active in sports. But still hanging in there. Obviously doing the COVID-19 stuff now, but still an avid Rice supporter, big time.
And a sharpshooter throughout his Rice Owls career. I really like seeing those the clips. I did a little prep. Adam Peaks, freshman from Kansas on that year's team. How about it? How you doing, Adam?
Good, JP. Thanks for having us. It's so much fun to take this walk down memory lane with these guys. We had a lot of fun in both on and off the court, and it's really great to see Coach Thompson, and it was fun looking through this game, so I look forward to talking about it with you.
And last but certainly not least, a former Rice star player, one of the greats in Rice history, a 1900, 1000 guy. Not many of those in any level of college basketball. Former Rice assistant coach as well. Big B, Brent Scott. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing great, doing excellent, especially in the times that we're going through right now. But I appreciate you having us on. It's great to be on with these guys, especially Coach T, who came and got me out of Lansing, Michigan, and brought me to Houston. Obviously, Tori and Adam, great teammates, great friends to this day. So excited about to talk about this game and talk about this season. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, Coach, let's just jump in and let's start with kind of that season and that buildup. Obviously, you're coming off the NIT trip the year before, but with this win, it was your first 20-win season since 1953, 1954 season. So just that season as a whole, how good of a team did you sense throughout the year that you had coming off that pretty good season the year before?
Well, JP, the key is the program was right on the verge because when you talk about the NIT season the year before, Rice had had 20 straight seasons without a winning season. And so that the year before was the first season in 20 years. And these guys were a key part of that, along with several other guys that were just did it. They turned it around. And going into this season, it was kind of a special year because we felt really good about ourselves. We were going to be playing in Hawaii. We just had some great competition coming up, and we were really looking forward to this season.
Yeah, Brent, no surprise, you were the leading scorer and rebounder on that team, ended up second team all-conference your junior year. So as one of the team leaders on that team, what did you sense that could have been different in that year's team that we're going to break down here more specifically with the Texas game in a second? But what was so special about that year's team for you, B?
I just think, Coach T and the staff, when they recruited me and us, they had a vision. Obviously, as Coach said, they hadn't had a winning season in 20 years. But back then, I believed in his vision. It became our vision. And I think we had a group of guys that was, I don't know if overachiever is the word, but we felt like we had something to prove. And, we had kind of took our lumps my freshman and, our sophomore year, we started to turn it around. But by my junior year, and we continued to add pieces to the puzzle each and every year. We had added Adam. And so I think our talent continued to improve. And we had just been through some wars, and we felt we were close my freshman and sophomore year. But our junior year, it was our time. And, it all kind of came together, and it was a great season.
JP, can I say this? And we talk about Brent being second team all conference the year before. The conference was the best conference in the country. I mean, Arkansas was incredible. Final Four caliber. Texas was great. Houston was great. The league was so good at the time, during this time, and we're trying to change the culture of the program, but it's just the time, the Southwest Conference, the old Southwest Conference was unbelievable. And these guys are going in there making a name for themselves where there wasn't before.
Yeah, Adam, you're a freshman and Tori a sophomore, but you're the third leading scorer I saw. I was looking up the old stats. So I'd like to hear from y'all how, even though you were key contributors in that team, you're still the younger guys on the team. What was y'all's dynamic and kind of mix into everything? You got a star like Brent and some other great players, but how did you, Adam, and you, Tori, fit into that?
Well, you're right. I mean, any good team, everyone's got a role to play. And I was a freshman on that team, and that team was very good and had some established upperclassmen that were stars. And that, starts with Brent, of course. But we also had Marvin Moore, who was spectacular. And then Tori was an emerging star. And so we had a lot of weapons. And so my role was to play good defense, to make sure I got the ball to Brent and Tori and Marvin and the guys who were the big scorers on the team. And then if, left open, knock down the open shot. And so it's funny. I watched the game for the first time in years and years and years the other night. And I made my older boys suffer through and watch the game with me. Their first reaction was just outrage that it's not in HD and they couldn't even tell who was who. And I said, well, that's a sign of how old your dad is. The other thing that they couldn't believe is several times I'd come off a screen and I was open and I didn't shoot it. Now, in today's culture, and certainly with my oldest boy, if he gets an ounce of daylight, he's firing it up. But that wasn't my role on the team. I had to explain to him, no, my job, yeah, that would have been an okay shot, but it's a lot better, higher percentage play to get the ball inside to Brent or Tori. And so we had such a great team. And really the culture, I wasn't there previous years, but I've seen the record. The culture and the belief that Coach Thompson and his staff put in us really culminated in this game where it all came together, and we had every confidence, even though they were a top 20 team and it was a big game for us, we had every confidence that we were going to win.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I was approaching the game from a glue perspective where as far as being an undersized power forward, I want to bring some speed, some athleticism, and to give Brent the opportunity to do his thing close to the goal. I really started working on and perfecting 15-foot jump shots so that he would have his space and we would have the proper spacing needed to have a pretty efficient and high-powered offense when needed. So going into my sophomore year, that was my goal, to try to help out as much as I could, be a good teammate by hitting my open jump shots, passing the ball when applicable, and contributing on defense and rebounding as best I could. So I was really excited about that year. And that was an extremely tough team, which in hindsight, I'm surprised we didn't get a chance to go to the NIT after that season with 20 wins in the Southwest Conference. I was really shocked that we didn't get a chance to play postseason that year.
Hold on a second. I got to jump in here. Did you just highlight your speed and athleticism? Is that what I heard?
Yeah. Brent and I talk about this a lot. And I was Draymond Green before Draymond Green.
Oh,
and I never got the accolades for that. So I'm just going on the records to say, yes, speed and athleticism, I did bring a fair amount of that to the Rice University team. Yes, from the power forward position.
Well, thank you for bringing those to the team.
Yes, thank you very much. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hey, Jay,
if I could just add one thing, and I really appreciate, the things that, you say and guys say about me. And I loved all these guys, and I love being one of the leaders of the team. But I thought we had a really, really talented team and a talented group. I mean, watching this game, I hadn't watched it in a long time. I mean, a guy like Kenneth Rourke, who was a senior.
Great game.
So many guys made sacrifices in their game for others. I thought we did a really good job of sharing the ball. Like, we knew who were the focal points of the team, but on any given night, anybody could have a big game. And I think, one of the things that it shows here was the connection we had off the floor. It was a family. Coach Thompson and our staff really put that in us. He preached it, he stressed it. And it's something I've carried on to me as, being a coach, but I just really enjoyed how close we were off the floor. And I think that showed up when we came to games because we knew we had each other back and we were so close. I mean, it was a different time. We didn't have phones and things of that nature, but we spent a lot of time, a lot of bus trips, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It was a special time, especially to be at Rice.
Just listening to that, you can tell Brent's destined to be a great head coach, and that's really good stuff you're talking about, B. And it's exactly how it is in building programs and getting the key people together. And you're right, we had such a great group and guys that were competitive and team oriented and all those. But you're right, B. That's you got a great career ahead of you.
I mean, just to add on that, it makes me feel extremely blessed when I can pick up the phone and call some of my teammates and have conversation with them. Whereas when I talk to other guys from other programs, they don't even know what half their teammates are, don't even know what they're doing. So it really makes me feel proud to say I went to Rice and can kind of, I know what all my teammates are.
I'd like to hear each of your thoughts leading up to that game, and then we'll get down to the nuts and bolts and talk about the atmosphere and obviously the box score of the game itself. But first with Coach, and then whoever wants to take the kind of the dribble handoff after that. But Coach, you lost to Houston by 3. You had a lot of close games. Texas Tech 7-point game, TCU by 5, but then you beat SMU in overtime. So kind of discuss those specific games in a whole going in and how that really led up. Hey, it's Old Southwest Conference. Every game was a tough game, but how that really built a kind of crescendo to that perfect night on national TV.
Well, we had this, we had the type of season that we had some really close games that it just a break or two and we would have won. I mean, we were a step away from winning the Maui Classic. We barely lost it. We had Michigan State on the ropes and barely lost to them, ended up getting 3rd place, which was, incredible for a team that was building like we were and exciting. And I think the whole team, the whole season was like that. We had some really close games coming down. I remember that SMU game and just how close it was and how exciting it was. And it gave us that little momentum. We had our sights set on this game and being home at Autry Court. It was just a timing was great. We were looking forward to this.
I tell this story all the time, being from Michigan, growing up in Big Ten country, it did not take me long to find a distaste for Texas in Houston and a lot of the schools in the Southwest Conference. So, Texas was a school that I thought, we played close after our first year, had some heartbreakers. We were not afraid. We were very confident in ourselves. And, it was our time. And if you think about it, for them to move the curtains, open the curtains, put bleachers in the back, now is, people don't really understand. They go to the gym now, to Autry Court. They don't understand, but, having that curtain, open that up was amazing. And, even to this day, you talk about your teammates a couple years, 2 years ago now, VCU, we played at Texas, and one of our former teammates, Scott Tynes, was at the game, and we beat Texas, and I'm yelling at him, and this is what we do. We beat Texas, and I look up, and Shaka's like in the handshake line, and I don't think he was too happy, but we beat Texas again, and I'm okay with that. So it was a great night, great win, and we all contributed. And man, watching it over again, man, just the amount of people in Autry Court that night was amazing.
The other thing that, this was a real program defining win and environment for us, because, not only was there 5,700 people there with the temporary bleachers, the curtain gone, but ESPN was there, and ESPN hadn't been on campus. And so to have a nationally televised game for a program like Rice, it really showed, okay, these guys have arrived. And I think it would be easy to get caught up in the hype and be excited about chance to play Texas, a top 20 team, and being on ESPN, but then to follow through and execute and perform the way we did and come up with a win, I think was doubly gratifying. And again, credit goes to Coach and the rest of it. I mean, he had us ready to play, and we had a game plan, and we believed in ourselves, and we believed that we had every business to win that game. As Brent mentioned, we just lost to Texas at their place early in the year by 1. Brent had a huge game that day, 30-plus points and a bunch of rebounds. But we knew, we belonged on the court with them, and we were not afraid to win that game.
Sure.
And just before you go, TA, the only thing I would add to that with Coach T is that's what he told us when he recruited us. That was the vision he had, with the old book with the hard hats on, and that's the vision he sold us. And to see it come full circle, my junior year was awesome. And once again, to do it with these guys. But sorry, TA. I
just
I'll pull it back out to you at the 15 feet so you can work on that.
No, I just want to kind of put a bow on everything because everybody kind of said everything that was important. But I think the biggest factor that was said was we were not scared in the moment at all. And to be honest with you, we were really upset that we didn't beat them twice that year because we should have beat them at their place as well. So like Coach T said, it was a perfect storm. We were ready for it. And like Adam said, we executed to a T.
And Tori's right. It almost every time we played Texas, it was a game that came down to the last basket. And so we were always right there. Even at Texas, the game, we were always right there. And I think that frustrated because we didn't beat them earlier that year, but we were always right there. And they really had a hard time handling Brent defensively and some of the and our other guys. We were just right there to break out to be a really good team, and this was our moment.
Yeah, that's a perfect spot to pick it up. And Tori, I want to lead off with you because of the replay I watched. I got a YouTube link earlier today. You get the first bucket. So how big, I mean, I know the whole game was close and Texas was leading by 1 at the half, but as we deep dive into the actual game, Tori, what do you remember? And I'd like to hear all your thoughts just about the flows of the game and Coach, some of the things you said at the timeout. First, Tori, what do you think?
So we knew to start the game it was going to be a game of contrast. We knew Texas wanted to run up and on and shoot threes. We knew we wanted to feed Brent as much as we could. And they came out in a zone, which meant I was really going to have to play a key role in the middle of the zone to put pressure on them. And so the first bucket that we scored, it was actually off of a rebound. It was a long rebound that I was able to get, and it gave me some space to be able to shoot the 15-foot jump shot that I've been practicing on for so long. And when that went in, I had a good feeling it was going to be a good day for me and that we were ready to go with these guys and really compete with them on a high level.
I'll be honest, I've played a lot of basketball and coached a lot of basketball since then. The one thing I will always remember is what Adam talked about earlier was being on ESPN, the curtains, the temporary bleachers, which was just awesome, the sellout crowd. But for me, that night going back and watching the game, and because of the way I played earlier in the year, I felt they tried to take me out with the zone. But once again, we had so many weapons. You had to pick your poison. We had shooters, Marvin. He got going there in the first half. And, you talk about one of the best people, teammates, roommates ever is Marvin Moore. I mean, ultimate guy, sacrificed a lot. But he stepped up that night. He covered center in the first half. Tori played well. Adam was always, I thought he did a really good job that year of picking his spots. He had some really big games. He hit some really big shots for us, but, the maturity was already there in Adam. And, I thought he was never afraid.
As a freshman, too.
As a freshman. Not afraid at all. And he was just such a key contributor to our success. And, he kind of got going in the second half. As I said earlier, Kenneth Work, But it all comes back to Coach T. You know, you can see his passion on the sideline, and we followed his lead along with our staff, and we was just all connected. And once again, it was our time. You know, we had been so close, and close but no cigar. But we was ready, and I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to watch it again, and it's awesome being on here with everybody talking about it. It's a blessing.
It's interesting watching it the other day. I think Brent, you hit the nail on the head. What was so much fun about that game was not only big environment, big opportunities to do something that Rice hadn't done in a long, long, long time, but was who were the contributors. There were so many contributors that game. Watching the film the other night, my first reaction was, wow, I was bad in the first half. I don't know if it was just the bright lights and being a freshman, but I didn't play very well in the first half. Thank you, Coach T, for sticking with me. It would have been easy to bury me on the bench. But as Brent said, the game had some ebbs and flows. Texas gets out to a big lead. And then Marvin, for a couple-minute stretch, just takes over, hits 3 threes, and keeps us in the game in a critical time where they could have pulled away, and it would have been really hard to come back. But it wasn't just the Marvin show. As you said, Tori played big. They tried very hard to limit the impact of Brent given the huge game he had. But it was so cool seeing Kenneth, in his senior night home game. The game he had was huge. And then, Mr. Sam Campbell always played well against Texas. And so it was really fun. He didn't have a huge role, probably the role he wanted that year. But anytime we played Texas, he stepped up and was great that game. So when I look back at it, there were so many different, quote, stars of the game that's what makes it satisfying. And when I'd take it a step further, when I think back over my career, I think I ended up with 12 points that game. I had a lot of games in the future with Tori, and then when Tori was gone, I was a senior, where it was much more, a much more impressive stat line than that. But that's probably my favorite game, my favorite memory, this Texas game as a freshman of all the games I played at Rice.
Just one more thing, Coach T, before you go, and one other guy I meant to mention earlier is Dana Hardy. Dana Hardy, his toughness, his leadership.
Yep.
He was one of the guys that made me come to Rice. And, the following year, my senior year, I had the same game against Texas Tech. I think he was trying so hard that night, but he studied the boat. You know what I'm saying? He was leading the ship. He was an unbelievable leader, unbelievable guy, unbelievable teammate. And even though it didn't show up in the stats, I still thought he played a big game for us, especially down the stretch. And he kept us going. So shout out to Dana Hardy. Love that dude.
No doubt.
It was awesome playing with him for 3 years. So I forgot to mention him earlier, but Dana Hardy was a big part of Coach T's tenure and turning Rice basketball around and getting it headed in the right direction. So shout out to Dana Hardy.
Hey, good point. Good point. Glad you mentioned him, because you would definitely be hearing from him.
Hey, but speaking of Dana, I will say this. The other thing I took away from watching that game was just how physical that game was. I know Texas wanted to run and gun and shoot all the threes, but we made that game extremely physical. And I got to think toward the end of that game, that really wore on them. Because outside of Dexter Cambridge and Benford Williams, they really didn't have any really thick physical guys. They had a lot of thin guys that could really jump.
Elvin Burdett was
Elvin Burdett had a little size too.
And
DJ Tyler.
DJ Tyler, they made it to the NBA. I mean, they had pros on that side.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, it wasn't just physical. It was also 125 degrees in there.
It was.
In the court. And you need to look no further than the video at the end of the game with Coach T. I think he just threw out his suit after the game. I think it's sweat-soaked.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's the one thing I thought of, how physical that game was. It was fun.
Yeah. One of the things that, and you guys have put up a couple times, has been we just had a group, and you've alluded to the fact we had really good staff that was just really good in preparing all these seeds to a prime time game like this. And I remember going before the season began, I usually try to show up at one of the social places where our students would be. And I remember getting up on a chair and promising our students we would get ESPN on us. And we were working to get ESPN on campus. And then we worked to get the students, because the students were, I mean, you talk about the atmosphere on most games. They were such keys in this. And then, and again, go back to kind of, this just didn't happen. It wasn't an accident. Some of the guys in the past that, and going back to Bobby Tudor's years and Glenn Youngkin and Dwayne Tanner, and guys that, as the years on, we were just pushing forward, taking steps. And here we are in a game this ESPN did show up. I wanted badly, campaigned badly to get Dave Vitale there. We couldn't get there, but here we're on ESPN is finally to we just came out. The other thing that I remember the game where we just felt we were going to beat them. We were going to win the game. We were really close at halftime, and we just came out and in that second half and had the confidence we were going to beat them. And so I just to everybody involved here, and at Rice University, which is just a great university. There's so many people that were part of this.
The jungle in the fan section was awesome, without a doubt, man. And just by the way, Coach, on Thursday night, I forgot the name of that bar downstairs. Used to show up. We used to duck out the back door, but
don't act like you forgot the name of it. You probably still have a tab you haven't paid off.
The coaches are coming, fellas. Time to go. We was just out getting fans too, Coach.
Oh, that's good. That's good. You did a good job, B.
Yeah, we were just recruiting fans, Coach.
You did a good job, B.
Yeah, a lot of 7-Ups and Sprites.
They had to follow the leader there.
Yeah, I kind of let him off the floor too. I'm gonna be honest with you. I let him off the floor as well.
We'd expect nothing less from you, B. But,
yeah, no camera phones back then.
One more thing about the game itself, like looking at the box score, it looks like a really back and forth game, and we obviously know the outcome, but Texas led by 1 at the half. You both shot 52% from the field, and Texas actually shot 60% from 3, but y'all were in the mid 40s in 3, but y'all really got it done at the free throw line. Over 80%, you shot 13 more free throws than them. So, Coach, if you don't mind kind of starting that dialogue, what won it in the end for you guys in that game?
You know, I think offensively we just got it going in the second half, and we could throw it to Brent. Tori was hitting. I remember Kenneth getting some key offensive rebounds that were just unbelievable. And I'll forget at the last couple possessions of the game, we stopped them defensively coming down and had them pulling it up in the right across the half court line. And we just kind of started to feel we were going to win the game. The other thing I remember too, and our bench was right there where on the balcony, we had all these, our students would flip 3 signs over every time that we made a 3-point basket. And as you guys have alluded to, Marvin got rocking. And those threes were just, and we had threes just all the way across the balcony there. And it was just it was such a great atmosphere. And I just, I remember just the celebration. We got down the stretch, we were going to win the game. And again, I'm so happy for the Rice fans and so happy for our students. I mean, that's who we're playing for. And it was just incredible game honoring our everybody involved, and a great university.
So, you know, it's funny, as I was watching the game, and we've been talking about how, you know, the past years kind of prepared us for this game. You know, I think back to my freshman year when we were playing Arkansas and Texas, and both those teams pressed the entire game. I think U of H did the same. And there was no one's press that was better than Arkansas's. And I think what I saw in that game against Texas in the second half was we were able to handle their pressure much easier in the second half than we did in the first half. And I don't know if it was because maybe they got tired. I don't know if we were just able to handle it better because we were in better shape because of the heat. But when I look at the number of fast breaks that we had in the second half because we just got past their initial full court pressure, it really helped us down the road.
Multiple
you mentioned JP, the shooting, which we shot the ball well, but also you touched on the free throw piece, and that's key. I mean, in games like this, a lot of times it does come down to making your free throws, and we did, as you noted, 80+%. I want to specifically highlight the big fella here on the call who went 5 for 5, 17 points, 11 rebounds. But 5 for 5 is what's notable. And I want to, we've heaped a lot of praise on Coach Thompson as a coach and how great he was, and that's all richly deserved. But I think Brent's stroke was underappreciated. I think he should have been out there shooting threes, and he had a lot smoother stroke than Coach Thompson let him expand his game out to the three-point line. I would have liked to see the big fella out there launching some threes.
Coach T told me I could shoot them in the summertime, not in the wintertime. So let me dribble as much as I wanted.
Brent,
I tell you what, I was like Shaq. I hit them when they count.
Brent would have pulled up for threes if we would have let him, Adam and Tori.
Yeah.
Trust
you
me.
have to tell us. We know.
Trust me. We saw it in preseason. He shot more threes in preseason, and if it didn't go in, which 99% of the time it didn't go in, he'd usually call a foul.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you're right. Those free throws were a key to the game, and all those little things to win a game. Because here's the other thing: Texas played good. I mean, they played. I mean, their shooting percentage. They were a good team, and they played really well. And our game was just a little bit better. And again, what home court is for, and that's where we were just – I didn't think we got home calls. I don't think we got all the things. I just think that we beat him down the stretch. And some of the games, again, leading up to that, we were just right there. We were not going to be denied in this game.
Well, I tell you what, if you look at Coach Penders, I think he thought we got a lot of traveling that night. He was double-breasted up, and he wasn't too happy with a lot of the calls. But
Coach Penders was never happy at the Autry Court. I'll never forget one of his quotes. It was the first basketball game that he ever coached in where weather was a factor. That's why we called it Jungle Gym, because it was so warm in there. He says the first game he'd ever coached where weather was a factor.
Listen, I got to go help Coach Rhodes. He's passing out 150 meals to a hospital here in Richmond. I can call you guys back on my phone to continue this, but I got to go jump in the car with him. If y'all, I can get back connected if that's okay, if you go be on for a little bit longer.
We're wrapping up, I think, here in a little bit, but whatever you want, B. You're Brent Scott, man. You do what you want.
Because of Coach T. It wouldn't be no Big B without Coach T, AP, and TA, and the rest of my teammates. If I don't get back on, I just want to say thank you so much. I love you guys. Thank you so much for the memories. I'm looking forward, fired up for Saturday night to relive it all again, especially against Texas. Everybody that's watching this, please continue to stay safe, stay well, and as always, man, go Owls.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Hey, CB.
Take care, man.
Go Owls, and love you guys.
Yeah, that's a good spot to kind of wrap it up. I just wanted to get the final, like we talked the Rice baseball team at the dog pile. But the other videos we've talked about the celebration. Rice had a huge volleyball win over appropriately Texas earlier this year. But what do you remember from the aftermath? Like any crazy hugs, celebration? I mean, it's still a regular season. You had a lot to go to, but what was it like? Final buzzer sounds, and what was that celebration like?
Yeah, I think, look, I think we were no doubt pleased. It was a landmark win, and we were super fired up. I think we also had the mentality that our work wasn't done. This wasn't the national championship. We wanted to do a lot more than beat Texas. We thought we should have beat Texas. We proved that. So it's funny. I don't have any extreme memories from any over-the-top celebration. I think we were pleased to get to 20 wins, pleased to beat a top-ranked team. But it was a good sign that we weren't overly impressed with ourselves or so elated that we thought our work was done. But, again, it goes back to the camaraderie that you have when you have a team that likes each other and likes the coaching staff. That my absolute best memories and the stories that we talk about when Tori and I and Brent and all of us get together are not so much about what happened on the court or who played well or who didn't play well, but it's the funny things and the stories in the locker room. And that's where you bond and create that brotherhood. And so I have no doubt that we had a good time that night. I have no doubt that Brent was sponsoring cold beverages at the pub later that night and having somebody else pay for it. He was sponsoring it, yet he didn't pay for it. Some other unsuspecting student got that privilege. But anyway, it was a great time and a great memory.
No, I think Adam he's spot on. That particular team was a very driven, focused team. Yes, we celebrated wins. We got down when we lost, and we always wanted to go back and find out what could we do to change the outcome of that game so we don't make those mistakes going forward. I guarantee you there was a lot of celebrations and parties, but I promise you we were thinking about who are we going to play in the first round of the Southwest Conference. Let's make sure we're ready to try to make a run there so we could get postseason.
I remember immediately after the game, I turned to my right, and there was my wife, Rebecca, and gave her a big kiss as everybody was flowing onto the floor. And then I remember being outside the locker room in the hallway area, and I was very emotional. And I was emotional because the win I felt was dedicated to the Rice students. I felt that they deserved to have a win like that to celebrate and to really understand that the Rice spirit, the Rice students, they were such a big part of this, and so glad that they could celebrate a victory because they were as big a part of it as anybody.
And I did see the final numbers. Y'all mentioned Dana earlier. He actually had 10 assists in that game. And then at that time for Marvin, he had better games later, but a career high 26 points at that time to lead. So
yeah,
go.
Tori.
The one thing about Dana is those stats are probably deceiving because, like I said, they pressed the whole game. And his turnovers were very low, and he was the main ball handler during that whole time. So kudos to him because he was very strong with the ball that game.
Looking at the box score, from my coach's view, here's my circles: 5 for 5, Brent Scott, key part of the game. 11 boards, part of the game. Kenneth Ward had 6 offensive rebounds. And that was really something. Dana Hardy had 10 assists. We only had 9 turnovers the whole game against a pressing team. We shot 52%. I mean, all those things, when you do those things, you should win. But some guys really stepped up. Marvin had 26 points, 5 for 10 from 3-point range. I mean, those things were really key. And obviously, Tori, Adam, I mean, there were just key things. Everybody was, and obviously we've talked about Dana, but Dana's 10 assists were unbelievable. So, I mean, everybody contributed, and the guys off the bench, which we can talk about. It was just a overall win for everyone.
Hey guys, thank you so much. It was fun hearing, and I can't wait to watch the replay in full with the commentary mixed in there. Thanks for what y'all have done for Rice basketball, Rice athletics, and appreciate the time. Thank y'all much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, JP. Thanks for getting us together.
Thanks, JP.
Adam, take care. Coach T, good to see you again, man. Take
Tori,
care.
we'll talk soon.
Bye, guys.